Hey, it's Drybear. We're continuing our series of covering every spec in Dragonflight, and today we're going to talk about the Preservation Evoker in Raid. Down below in the description, I will give you my builds for import. You can copy those strings, put them into your game, and have your talent builds imported directly into your Evoker. And we'll talk about how to play it and what the talent build is all about. If you have any questions or comments for me, you'll find me live every day on twitch.tv/Drybear. Come by and say hi. All right, let's talk Preservation Evoker in Raid, Vault of the Incarnates. This is probably one of the strongest raid healers in the game right now. Their throughput is bonkers, and they have so many different tools that allow them to really excel. There's been a lot of debate since the launch of Dragonflight on which build is going to be better. There was two main builds that kind of sprung up through the beta and going into the launch of Dragonflight. One was focused more on Dreamflight and then using your empowered spells with Reversion and Echo, and the other was using your Verdant, your Emerald Blossom with Field of Dreams, Fluttering Seedlings, and Cycle of Life, so that you're throwing out your blossoms, and they're triggering more blossoms, and they're causing more explosions, and all that sort of thing. I can tell you right now that the Reversion Stasis Dream Breath build beats the Seedling build completely. It's actually just better. The throughput is insanely good. Reversion and Echo are insanely strong and flexible, and it gives you a lot of options for placement and scaling up HOTS. I'll give you both. So I'll give you this build down below. This build specifically is my Raid Dreamflight build that uses primarily Stasis, Dreamflight, and then using your Dream Breath. But I do have a Seedling build that I'll give you down below in the description if you do want to play that way. It's not like it's terrible, like doing a spam on Emerald Blossoms with these. It is quite good. It's just not going to win out against a properly played Echo Reversion Stasis build that uses your essence properly to scale up lots of HOTS on top of Temporal Anomaly, though you'll use a Temporal Anomaly in both builds most of the time. But just know that those two builds exist, and this one right now, this one is beating out the other one quite significantly. So if your person just wants to play the best build, I would say this is the best build. But first, let's go over a class overview. For anyone who's new to Preservation Evoker, or maybe you're just looking for a starting point, here are the basics of the class. You have a unique ability, which is your empowered spells, and these are channeled spells that you stand still for. It's a new mechanic that got added with Dragonflight for the Evoker class specifically. So when you channel an empowered spell, you can see it goes up in different empowered levels, and based on how long you charge it for, it has many benefits to it. The best one in your arsenal is Dream Breath. This one is, you don't lose any healing, but the shorter you hold it and charge it, the more it does heal over time, and the longer you charge it, the more it does instant healing. So the min-max is really just whether you're going to get good value out of the HOT, because it does last at the baseline 16 seconds. So you feel like they're going to be top for a while, depending on the encounter. You may want to charge it longer, or maybe you're using cooldowns to get a big Dream Breath out that does a bunch of extra healing. Keep in mind that this is capped at 5 targets, but at base, so you do want to be using this regularly. It's not like a big raid-wide. You want to be using this regularly and on cooldown. And using it with things like Call of Ysera. But that's kind of your best ability at core. You have another empower spell, Spirit Bloom. Most builds use this. This one does a big single target heal, and the longer you channel it, the more targets it hits. This is the most common one to use with Tip the Scales. You can activate Tip the Scales, which allows your next empower spell to go off instantly and at full power. So you can activate this in Dream Breath, though usually you'll do it with Spirit Bloom because it's super helpful as a spot healing mechanic, because anyone that gets low, Spirit Bloom will seek them out and prioritize targets that are low. You have a big burst to keep them alive, that sort of thing. So you have these empowering spells as a evoker, and then your unique resource is called Essence. It is here on this marker here, but you can see it on my bar as well. When you cast spells that cost Essence, that Essence just naturally regenerates. And it just kind of ticks up and goes, and then you use different spells for it. The two primary spells you'll use Essence for are going to be your Echo, which is it's the foundation of the whole build. It's super important to know how this works. And then the other one is going to be your Blossom, which we just talked about. This one shoots a blossom at a target, it blooms, and then after a few seconds, it explodes and heals, and there's a build that builds off of that. But Echo is the core of Preservation Evoker, and it separates good evokers from great evokers. And what this does is you instantly apply Echo to a target, it does a minor heal to them, and then the next non-Echo healing spell to cast will cast an additional time on that target with a scaler on it. So at base, it does 105% normal healing. There are other things in here that you'll get that can make that even higher. But what's cool about that is you can duplicate basically anything. So for example, your heal over time reversion, which we'll talk about at length in a minute because it's one of your best heals as well, is a single target heal. So you single target heal a target and it's causing reversion. It gives them a nice little heal. So once you have that up, we can remove it. Then you can say, well, throw Echo on the target and then reversion. And now you have a reversion plus a slightly better reversion, 105% of that value, right? So you get an extra little bit on that, which is super nice. And it does double up. You can actually do the same thing with Dream Breath as well. So you activate Dream Breath, you get 2 hots on there, right? So you get a whole bunch of really nice flexible aspects to it. And the core of playing Preservation Evoker in Raid is constantly choosing targets for Echo, 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 and then choosing whether you're going to consume that Echo with a reversion, which puts hots on everyone that has Echo on them, or maybe you want to do a really big Spirit Bloom, or you can even use your Verdant Embrace for a big single target heal for everyone that has Echo. But Echo is incredible and cannot be overstated how important this ability is. So that's the core of it. You're spending your essence on either Echo, or if you're running the Blossom build, you'll spend it on Blossom, which is super cool. And then you'll be able to build that up as it goes. And then you're going to find ways to use your empowered spells to heal your raid up the best that you can, aside from your big cooldowns. That's the core, the crux of Preservation Evoker. Let's get into talent builds and talk about cooldowns, and then we'll put it all together specifically in this raid build. We'll start by talking about this build, my Raid Dreamflight build, which is it's just the best build, and then we'll move into talking about Seedling build for those that want to play it, that are interested. So big cooldowns, you have Stasis. This is one of your best cooldowns and should be used very intelligently. This one, kind of like Echo, is a duplication mechanic. So when you activate Stasis, you pop it up, and then it is on you. You have 3 stacks of it. The next 3 healing spells that you cast will be stored in Stasis for 30 seconds. So you want to choose good spells to store in this, and then either after the 30 seconds is up, or when you choose to, you can release those spells again. So there are typically 2 options here, but it's much more flexible than this. I don't want to get into the extent of how powerful Stasis is. We'll just talk about kind of like general use cases. The first one that you might find useful on a stacked fight is to get 3 temporal anomalies inside of it. This can be incredibly powerful, especially if you're running with Echo on top. So temporal anomaly is an ability that you shoot out, you cast it, and it's this slow moving orb, especially when you're in raid, that applies shields to targets. And then if you're running the modifier, it can also apply Echo, which can duplicate extra healing on main targets. But if you temporal anomaly, wait for the short cooldown to come back. Keep in mind, temporal anomaly does cost a lot of mana, so it can burn your mana pretty quickly. But you can put 3 temporal anomalies inside of your Stasis, and then when you're ready, you can just poop them out. If it's a stacked area, you know, if there's fights where the whole raid's in one spot, you can get crazy pulses because there's a limit on how many people can get benefit from temporal anomaly. So if multiple are stacked together, you can get some really good value. The other use case is for general situations in raid and is very flexible, and that is to take advantage of your Dream Breath, your Spirit Bloom, and then usually your Verdant Embrace to trigger it. So what you do is you pop the Stasis, then you throw out the Verdant Embrace, which is it flies to the target and heals them. So you'll fly to the target, big single target heal. But it triggers a couple effects that are really nice in the tree. The first one is Call of Ysera. Verdant Embrace increases the healing of your next Dream Breath by 40% or your next Living Flame by double. So Dream Breath is your big, big cone heal that heals 5 people. But if you Verdant Embrace first, yeah, so right there you can go like that. Then you can throw out the Dream Breath, and it increases the Dream Breath healing by 40%. It's still a Dream Breath. I think Dream Breath and Reversion in most cases are going to be your two highest heals on your heal meter, especially if you're running this build. They're just so incredibly powerful to play with. Then to finish out the Stasis, you want to use a big fat Spirit Bloom. Now, the reason you want to do this is because when you Stasis again, it's going to Verdant Embrace, which triggers Call of Ysera, which then instantly triggers Dream Breath. And then if you have a fully stacked Spirit Bloom, it'll spot heal a whole bunch of people, especially if you Temporal Anomaly beforehand. You can get extra heals on the Verdant Embrace or the Dream Breath. So instead of doing the triple Temporal Anomaly stack, if the group's all stacked in one spot, for the most part, like Kurog, there's some moments you can really take advantage of this. Some periods of Razageth as well, especially in the last phase, you can do a triple Temporal. But the other one is to pop Stasis, Verdant Embrace, and then you can typically run into a target and have that. Then you want a Dream Breath, and then you can even tip the scales into a Super Spirit Bloom. And then when you let those go again, you get this really cool combo effect that can get some nasty bonuses on it. So that's kind of the core of it. Your biggest raid cooldown is going to be Rewind. And I have a love-hate relationship with this ability. This thing, to me, as someone who has made a Mistweaver for a long time, it feels like what Revival should be. But it is so incredibly powerful. It's just unbelievable how strong this ability is. So what this does is on a 3-minute cooldown, you activate it, it's instant. All characters that are in range of you, in 40 yards range of you, they rewind half the damage they took in the last 5 seconds. Keep that 5-second window in mind. It's very important for maximizing it. It always has a baseline heal, but you can get some incredible healing out of it. And then the healing is doubled when you're in a group, whatever. So when you activate this, you basically want to maximize the amount of damage the raid has taken in the last 5 seconds. Usually the easiest use case is if everyone just took a massive raid-wide hit and they all dropped to 20%, pop rewind, boom, half that healing goes across, plus the healing that everyone else is throwing out. Everyone's back to full HP in a couple seconds. It's actually nuts. But sometimes you get pulse damage, like in Razageth Phase 2, when everyone's just pulsing and pulsing and pulsing and pulsing. You can get some really big regen to get the health back up. So just keep in mind that when you have that rewind bonus, about 5 seconds, keep that in your head and you can activate it. You can use this basically any time. Pop cooldowns, get trinkets going, and then rewind. It gives you a really nice follow-up on top of that. Now, your more medium raid cooldowns are going to be Emerald Communion and Dreamflight. The reason I say medium is that they're not going to contribute a massive amount, but if you use them regularly and you use them smartly, they can help bridge the gap between your really good raid cooldowns. So the first one is Emerald Communion. This one is super straightforward. You just channel, and it will restore % health and % mana to anyone that it can get to. Overhealing is transferred to a nearby ally. So it just is a nice short heal. You can channel it. It'll find targets to heal up, and you get nice little bonuses for it. There's 2 modifiers for this that people run. I don't know. I think the jury's still out on which one is actually better. So at base, Emerald Communion, you cannot move while you are casting it, unless you use your hover, which you move forward, and then while you're flying and hovering, you can move while casting, and it does work with Emerald Communion. So some people run, with this modifier, Rush of Vitality, it increases your maximum health. Which means that you have more actual health to play with, so you can more than likely keep yourself topped and benefit from your mastery, which means you heal people more when you have higher health. And some people run Dreamwalker, which means that you don't have to consume a hover stack prior to using it every time. You can just use it because they're fine managing their own HP and keeping it high to get the most out of their mastery. So either one I think is fine. I think on average people tend to go for this just so that they can hover beforehand and then they get the extra health out of it. And then the mastery is super important. Healing done to allies is increased by 40% when your health percentage is when their health percentage is lower than their own. So as you're playing, you're going to want to keep yourself top to get the most out of your mastery. This mastery is really good, but it is completely binary. If you have 70% health and they have 71% health, your mastery is 0. It's nothing. It doesn't do anything. And if you add 2% to that, you're just slightly above them, then it turns on. So it's very binary. You want to make sure you're always topping yourself, especially before big raid cooldowns, because you will get a significant bonus to your health. And there's a couple ways you can top, which I guess we can talk about right now. I was going to put it later, but Renewing Blaze is super useful for this. You want to be using defensives as much as you can to get the most out of your mastery. Obsidian Scales is great. It's just a flat damage reduction. You can also Verdant Embrace yourself. Big single target heal. You can Spirit Bloom when you or one other person is low, so you get the benefit of Spirit Bloom. You can also cast Living Flame on yourself, or with the tanks and you can Echo into a double reversion, and then you always get your own Dream Breath, which can keep yourself topped as well. But this one, Renewing Blaze, is a 1-minute cooldown, and it reverses 100% of the damage you take for 8 seconds. So if a big raid-wide damage is coming out, pop Renewing Blaze, and then you don't have to worry about healing yourself as much. You'll get more out of your mastery, and you'll be able to heal yourself up at the same time. So use Renewing Blaze. It is so incredibly good. So what does this build look like in actual gameplay? We talked about it at the beginning of the video, but the core of it is getting echoes out on as many targets as you possibly can. Echo is the core of your build, and we'll be able to duplicate so many things. You're using Stasis smartly to make sure that you have good value on it, and then you're using Temporal Anomaly when people are stacked up to give shielding, plus spreading mini echoes across the board. If the raid is not in major trouble, as you're stacking up these echoes, using Temporal Anomaly and regular echo casts, never let your essence stack up all the way. Always be using echo. You can either, if there's minor to moderate damage, cast Reversion on the tank, and then everyone that has an echo will also get a Reversion. And remember, Reversion, when it crit heals, will actually extend its own duration. So you can end up having it on a bunch of people. If there's more than a high amount of damage coming in, you can stack up all your echoes and then choose to consume that with like a Spirit Bloom or a Dream Breath or a Verdant Embrace and get a big heal out of it across the board for everyone that's around. And then you're managing your big cooldowns in between, using your Rewind, using your Dragonflight, using your Emerald Communion to balance that out, and then stacking up your echoes and stacking up your echoes. Every class has this maintenance mechanic that they're doing. The core for Provoker is getting those echoes out and keeping them up as much as you can. And then you're deciding whether, in cases like this on Raszageth, you might want to do multiple Temporal Anomalies in your Stasis, or you might want to do the Verdant Embrace, Dream Breath, Spirit Bloom combo, and then have that to dump when you need it to stack up. But that's the whole gameplay. You're just kind of doing that. You can see here how many reversions I have and how many Dream Breaths I have out on the entire raid just because of Echo. It's just duplicating and duplicating. And then you can use the double reversion on the tank to get extra hots on them, Verdant Embrace to trigger, and get some extra bonuses on that. Try to use Verdant Embrace on cooldown. Life Bind is not to be overlooked. It gives you, for 5 seconds, it gives you duplicated health. It's almost like a mini beacon of light. So Verdant Embrace as much as you possibly can. It gives you a whole bunch of benefits, not only in scaling up your Dream Breath, but giving you the Life Bind as well. So that's the core of the best build that I would say for Preservation Evoker, is being able to get those echoes out, throw out your reversions. If you're someone who's been playing a Preservation Evoker and you're struggling to get good value out of it, try to manage your rewind cooldowns, get as much reversion out as you possibly can. If you look at the best parses on Mythic Clears, Reversion and Dream Breath are the highest contributors to the overall hot. And Echo is kind of the basis for that, being able to duplicate and amplify the Echo, the heal over time value and bonus healing value from this. And then just make sure you're using Stasis regularly, storing it up and using it as a pseudo raid cooldown, because you can dump everything out. So that is the Dragonflight build. I will have that in the description so you can import the string, give it a name, you got yourself in build. But just to be thorough, let's talk about the Seedling build that is kind of like a secondary option. It's not bad. You can still get great numbers with it. You can still be top of the HPS or raid healing. I just think that in general, it takes a backseat to proper reversion and echo gameplay. And the core of this is to use Cycle of Life, Field of Dreams, and Fluttering Seedlings, and then you can use your Emerald Blossom over and over to get some really cool procs. There's several variants of this build specifically, some that do use Cycle of Life and some that don't. This one specifically, I have a Seedlings build, and then if you give up Stasis, you can get better Dream Breath and use no Stasis here into this. I just think the Stasis, I'd rather have Stasis just because it's so good rather than having Cycle of Life. So every 3 Emerald Blossoms leaves behind a tiny sprout, which gathers 50% of your healing over time, over 10 seconds, and then it explodes and heals. It's kind of like a Cloudburst totem. So basically, you can just be throwing out Emerald Blossoms. They have a chance to spawn new Emerald Blossoms, and every 3 Emerald Blossoms spawns a Seedling. You also have 2 flying Seedlings when the Emerald Blossoms burst, which gives you a bonus, just kind of a free pad the meters kind of heal. And then there's a 30% chance for one of your Seedlings to grow into a new Emerald Blossom. So the more you spend your Stasis, you can see that Cycle Life is ready. You can start stacking it up, getting bonus healing out of it, that sort of thing. You can also save up your Essence and use Stasis if you're using the other build. I would say this is probably the third. And then going into I think this build is better, giving up the Seedling bonus because it's kind of inconsistent, and then using Stasis because Reversion and Echo are so good that even when you're running this Seedlings Field of Dreams build, there are times where you will be using Emerald Blossom, and there are times when you will go back to Echo Reversion, that sort of thing. But you can get Stasis out, you can pop Stasis, fill up your Essence, pop Stasis, get a whole bunch of Emerald Blossoms out, and build off of that. Life Giver's Flame is a nice benefit here. You can use Life Giver's Flame plus Leaping Flames in this build. Leaping Flames is when you stack Fire Breath up, it will be able to increase your Living Flame, which is your single target heal, and it'll spread that out to multiple targets, and then you can get bonus healing from your Fire Breath, and then combine it with these 2 here. So the major difference with this is there are times where you will be using Temporal Anomaly to stack up bonus echoes and other things like that, throwing out your Echo and then getting reversions on as many targets as you can. Still using Verdant Embrace plus Call of Viscera for the bonus Dream Breath, using Stasis to getting good value out of Verdant Embrace, Stasis, Verdant Embrace, then your Dream Breath, and then your Spirit Bloom, bonus on that. And then when there's downtime or everyone's stacked up, that's when you can start doing your crazy Emerald Blossom builds, and that just get some super crazy value out of that. You can even use Stasis to stack up 3 Emerald Blossoms and then release them all at once. And if you're running with Seedlings, those proc spawn new Emerald Blossoms that just kind of make it super cool. So you can remember, these can spawn new ones and they can trigger bonus. I think the reason why this build falls behind is it's kind of inconsistent. The Blossom itself, especially the random ones, they can go out to a raid member that's out in the corner, which means it's not hitting anyone else or not many people around them. It's also RNG, and sometimes the Cycle of Life timing is less than ideal. Like everyone gets topped and there's no damage coming in, so you don't have any effective healing to stack up the value of the Cloudburst Totem, right? Unlike a Cloudburst Totem where you have more control of when it happens and when you pop it, this one just is kind of on its own timer. So down in the description, I'll put this one as well if you do want to try this. It is fun to play. It's cool to see blossoms flying all around, but I would recommend going with this more standardized build with better use of Dream Breath and Stasis, Reversion, and Echo to keep everyone topped up and ready to go. So that's Preservation of Evoker. A couple minor things. You do want to get good value out of Time Dilation, the tank external that basically gives any tank the Brewmaster Stagger effect, which slows the damage they have coming into them. Remember, you want to be using your Obsidian Scales, your Renewing Blaze to keep yourself alive. Pop Zephyr when your group really needs it. It is insanely good. It reduces AoE damage, super valuable. You can also run a rescue build, which when you rescue someone, which you fly to them and take them with you somewhere else, kind of like in the middle of Life Grip, kind of. You can run Twin Guardian as well to get value out of that. And then, yeah, make sure you're using Source of Magic. Super nice. You target another healer, and then you can increase their mana. So, it's just a nice way to get more mana in the field. But that is Preservation of Evoker in Raid. You want to be using everything we talked about. Manage your Echoes, manage your Reversions, manage your Dream Breaths. Use your Empowers the best you can, and practice using Stasis, because it can really save you and make things feel really good. But I hope that was helpful. I hope that covers the basics of how you play Preservation of Evoker in Vault of the Incarnates and beyond, in all the new raids that are coming out shortly. So If you have any questions or comments for me, you'll find me live every day on twitch.tv/Drybear. Come by and say hi. If you enjoyed yourself today, leave a like down below. You can support me and my work on Patreon and view Patreon exclusive content, link in the description. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.